In my own visit to Ethiopia in 1965, when I went to the village of Ambober, some 30 Kohanim came to that synagogue and gave me a letter addressed to the President of Israel, begging to be lifted on the wings of eagles like their co-religionists across the Red Sea in Yemen, as quickly as possible, otherwise they faced extinction. And it was signed in Isaiah's phrase, the remnants of Israel.
Falasha origins are shrouded in mystery. No one knows how Jews first got to Ethiopia. Some say that Israelites fled to Africa after the destruction of the first temple in 587 BC. Others believe that their ancestors were Egyptian or Yemenite Jews. The most popular legend recounts how, in the 10th century BC, the Ethiopian queen Sheba, ruler of the ancient kingdom of Cush, upon hearing of the wisdom of Solomon, traveled to the land of Israel. Legend has it that after seeing the queen's beauty, Solomon tricked the Black Queen into spending the night with him. The queen returned to Ethiopia, where she gave birth to Solomon's son, Menelik I. When the young prince was old enough, he traveled to Israel and was united with his father. He returned to Ethiopia to firmly establish Judaism in his mother's kingdom. Whatever their origin, Jews have lived in Ethiopia for over 2 millennia. They practice a literal, pre-Talmudic Judaism, strictly observing the laws of Deuteronomy, including circumcision, the Sabbath, holidays, and dietary laws. For over 1,000 years they ruled most of Ethiopia, preserving their independence longer than the ancient kingdoms of Israel. Their golden age came to an end. In the 17th century they were defeated by Christians and given a choice, to convert or forever be falasha, exiles. The Jews resisted. Many were killed. Others were forcibly converted. All lost their land. For centuries they lived as tenant farmers, maligned as evil eyes, and restricted to outcast occupations such as metalworking. The isolated falashas believed they were the last remaining Jews on earth. This archival film was shot by American author Meyer Levin during the reign of Haile Selassie, Lion of Judah, King of Kings, who ruled over feudal Ethiopia for 49 years. Selassie did not change their second-class status. They were, however, free to practice their religion. Each village had its own synagogue. This synagogue is now padlocked. Governor Major Malaku Tefera runs Gandar like a military camp. He has padlocked synagogues, closed Hebrew schools, and imprisoned rabbis. We were warned not to make contact with the falashas. Unique in all of Africa, Gandar's medieval castles dominate the city. At that site, our appointed guide, Worku Sheru, explains his government's rationale for banning contact between the falashas and Westerners.
See that when people make something out of them and they are quaint, they are interesting for tourists, and they like to see these. On the other hand, we would like these people to abandon these bad habits. And it's because of that that you're not allowed to go visit and film the village.
En route to the Simeon Mountains, the guide became agitated as we attempted to film falashas out of the Land Rover.
You know, guys from the West, you have a fixation.
I don't have a fixation.
You do? No, really, let's go. Let's risk it. You know, I don't have it. But if you lose all this film, And you have to be cool. Just like as you want this, you must be ready to lose your film. This, you must be ready right now.
What, and how would it happen that we would lose the
You will lose it. That's certain.
Why?
I mean, it will be confiscated. It will be returned to you after security went all through it and see that there are no shots of falasha.
Yeah. And you think that someone would find out and we'd go on to...
It's certain. That I don't doubt. I'm sure, you must realize, this is all, we're only 2 kilometers from Denmark. And I bet you they already know we are here. Listen, I'm not trying to stop you from going. I'm not to frighten you, but you must be ready to take what is.
The consequences.
The consequences. And anybody who can take the consequences is free to, then break laws and do whatever. But you have to be cool when it comes to consequences.
Yeah.
We tried a different route. We realized that falasha children living in this region would be attending state schools. We stopped at one such school and spoke to the teacher.
The religion of most of these students.
Christianity. Christians, they are following the religion of Christianity.
But there are some that are not Christians.
Yes, there are rare of the students are not following.
Yes, some rare students are Jews.
Are following the religion of Jews.
Jews. How many Jews would there be amongst these?
This school?
In this school, there are some 7 or 10 Jewish students.
And where do they live? Where do the Jewish people live?
They are living around.
The Jews are living all around this community.
Do they live in separate villages or are they all together?
They are separated.
They are not separated. They are mixed socially and politically with the people.
The teacher pointed out this young Jewish girl who was now wearing a cross. Marxist-Leninist texts, revolutionary doctrine, and military training all form part of the curriculum.
We saw some of the students over in the field, they were marching.
Yes, they can. They can march in military working like the Russian or the Cubans were marching.
Before going to Ethiopia, we studied maps of the Semine Mountains and consulted with falashas living in the west. As a result, we knew the location of some remote falasha villages, unfamiliar even to the guide. Pack horses loaded with camera gear, we began a 10-hour trek toward one isolated falasha village. We were now joined by an army officer who boasted that he had killed 8 student rebels. In the hours to come, the guide who was lured unwittingly into a falasha village would try to get out of his predicament by intimidating the villagers and mistranslating whenever the falashas became too controversial. There it was. Fearful of the government officials, the falashas would answer evasively, at first even denying having heard of Israel. Often a gesture revealed more than the spoken word. Everyone was nervous as the interviews were conducted in a village that officially should never have been entered.
The House of Israel.
Are they still able to carry on their religion here in this village? Do they carry on?
Yes, around here, there are many of us. Our religion is different. There are many of us. We believe in the Torah.
Here comes the rabbi.
Somewhere, friend.
Can he show us his Bible? How long have they been living here in this village?
A long time. How long do you think?
Our fathers' fathers died here.
Are they happy living here? Do they enjoy living here?
Yes.
After he created the world on the seventh day, God rested. Do you understand now?
Now we are having a little discussion here about the Old Testament, and he was saying, I was telling him that there are some people who go by the New Testament that don't have the same habits they do, and I was saying they have improved some, and he was saying that's not good, and he gave the for example the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a sacred commandment that it should be respected, and these people on the Sabbath do not do anything. They don't walk, they don't work. Sabbath is resting.
Do they have much contact with other Jewish people in Ethiopia?
Do you have contact with other falashas in the area?
What kind of contact? We do have religious gatherings. Yes, we do get together. Yes, we do have our reasons for getting together. We get together for special occasions. By the law of the Torah, we get together on Yom Kippur, Sig, Passover. On those special days, when we celebrate those holidays, our Kohen calls us together. Everyone comes together, congregates together, and we study the commandments, listen to the teachings, and do all the special things.
Do they like it here? Do they want to go somewhere else?
Do they know about Israel and all that?
No, you'd ask.
Do you know of a country by the name of Israel?
A foreign country? No, we have no way of knowing. We were born in Ethiopia, but we've heard rumors. We don't know if this place is in the country or outside. These days, when we listen to the radio and hear about what goes on outside the country, we hear Israel mentioned. But ourselves, we were born here, inside Ethiopia.
Have heard of it by radio, but they have been born, their forefathers have been born in Ethiopia, and they are Ethiopians, they know of Ethiopia. But now they hear by radio some things about Israel.
But they're happy to be in Ethiopia.
Are you happy to be living in Ethiopia? Even if you're not happy, you haven't got a choice.
What can we do?
These people think you have a connection with Israel. But you are Ethiopians, whether you like it or not. This is your country.
Yes, we are just simple people. We don't know about these things.
Our fathers died here. We are already old. We will end our lives here too.
He says, their forefathers' roots have been rooted here, and they have grown old here, and this is the country they know.
Has it changed for them since the revolution? Has it got better for them here?
Has it become better for you since the revolution?
Sure, the new laws are good. For example, the law concerning land distribution and the laws concerning equal work opportunities. But the peasants' associations, which were set up to implement these new laws for the benefit of the poor, have not done so. And we are still suffering. We are suffering. The hunger, the many problems, the anguish is still on our shoulders. We still carry the burden. It's the peasants' associations which refuse to implement the new laws when it comes to us.
Do you think you'll ever leave Ethiopia?
Man does not follow the path of his own thoughts. It is the will of God that determines his destiny. The path God chooses for us, you can be sure will be the right one.
It's extraordinary they've been able to keep this religion, which is rather very old-fashioned.
Our fathers, it comes down from our fathers.
We are strong because of our religion. We don't want to break the commandments. We are prisoners of the Torah.
Are they also doing the pottery and selling things to tourists like we see, like we've heard about in other?
Yes, the women and all of us work hard.
We work hard, but they take it from us without paying.
What do you mean without paying? You give it for free? Free?
No, we work hard with all the effort we have, and then others take it. They don't leave us anything. If they pay us very little.
To say that you work for nothing, that's not good to say. There's a peasants' association. If they hear about this, they will take some action. There is a peasants' association. There is a local governor working on these problems.
Forget about the peasants' association. All they care about is themselves.
You shouldn't say such things.
They supply all the iron work, the iron tool, the pottery, household goods, and weaving for the people around here. And that is now supported by a new hope, which is they can harvest with farming too, but that they still do that.
While the guides were distracted at one end of the village, some of us had a few moments alone with the falashas. Immediately, one young man took out an outlawed book from Israel and showed us that in the isolation of the Simeon Mountains, he has taught himself to read Hebrew. Also treasured was this Polaroid photograph of their Bible, the Torah, taken by a tourist in pre-revolutionary times.
Ask him who it is, son.
Mize. Uyude? Minnetanla. Torah?
Torah.
Hello. Montreal, Canada. Baruch Tegeni runs a small diner here. He escaped his native village in Gandar after the revolution. Tegeni's odyssey to freedom in 1975 took him past Ethiopian patrols into the Sudan. He then fled to Chad. He walked for 2 days without water in the Sahara Desert. From Chad, he went to Cameroon and on to Nigeria, where he caught a plane to Rome and finally to Israel. When he tried to involve Israelis in the rescue of his people, he was told that rescue would be impossible. Frustrated, he came to Canada with his Canadian-born wife to raise support in America for the falashas. With funds from the American Association for Ethiopian Jews, in 1979 he returned to Africa and smuggled 54 falashas to freedom, thereby proving that rescue is possible.
Do you think that the situation has changed at all since the revolution? In villages like that?
Nothing changed. It's my opinion. It's first of all when it started the revolution, so they decide to the falasha, they never had their own land. So this is the first time after the revolution they start to give them land. But still the people, they didn't want them to own any piece of land in that place. So it doesn't matter, probably the law exists, but the landowner, they never give a piece of land to them. And then there are few left, so they cannot protect themselves by any kind of way. So they're just like a prisoner people.
Start by telling me how you first...
Rejecting assimilation and believing that the Jewish community in Ethiopia faces its final crisis, thousands have fled into neighboring countries. This young falasha woman, whose family still lives in Ethiopia, made it to freedom on her second attempt.
When I first thought of leaving for Israel, I didn't think I'd have problems along the way. I traveled a long distance over many roads. We were robbed by bandits along the way. Our legs were scratched and cut by thorns. We had blisters on our feet and we were hungry. It rained all the time. We came to a small village. Nearby, there was a big river. When we tried to cross it, we were caught. At first, they slapped us and kicked us. Then they put us in this place where they beat people. They have irons with screws that you can tighten, like this. After that, they put a stick between our legs with the point under our chin. Then they lifted our legs up until we were upside down. They tied our thumbs with leather, put them over our heads, and tied them back there. Then they started to beat us with a metal bar. We started to scream. That was the way they tortured us. They scared us by telling us they were going to kill us, so we never thought we would be released. The irons were so tight the blood could not circulate. Our hands and feet became swollen and some became paralyzed. Governor Malaku warned us repeatedly not to attempt to escape again. Then he said, "You can go, but if you are caught trying to escape again, you will die."
What is the government's policy in terms of immigration leaving Ethiopia?
There is no general rule that prohibits individual Ethiopians to leave the country as long as their cases are legitimate. Ethiopians are permitted. There is no restriction to leave the country if they wish to do so.
Drought periodically sweeps Ethiopia. In the 1970s, famine ravaged many of Ethiopia's provinces. Hundreds of thousands died. This archival film was shot on the Ethiopia-Somalia border. The people who suffer most are the refugees who have fled war, tyranny, and poverty. In the spring of 1983, famine shifted from the Somali border to the provinces of Wallo, Tigray, and Gandar. In the belief that escape from Ethiopia would mean refuge in Israel, thousands of falashas have become refugees in the Sudan. Most have not been rescued. To find out why and complete this crucial part of the inquiry, we journeyed to the Sudan. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees administers this camp near the Sudanese-Ethiopian border. The settlement is plagued by hunger-related diseases, dehydration, malaria, trachoma, and tuberculosis. There are 12,000 Ethiopians in this camp. 3,000 of them are Jews. When they arrive, the refugees are close to death. Many die en route. Those who make it are brought back to subsistence level by international relief agencies. Ironically, the Jews have fled persecution only to encounter even more of it here. Unwilling to be photographed, they disappear into huts. They are afraid to be identified as Jews. Age-old prejudices persist. Superstitious refugees believe that it is the falasha's evil eye that causes suffering in the camp. Many have turned on the Jews. Caught between hostile neighbors, certain that Israel will soon save them, the falashas wait. Their numbers diminish daily, a result of violence, hunger, and disease.